The results are in. The election is over. And coming up, Governor Snyder talks with us about what is on his agenda for the next 4 years in Michigan. Stay put. MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Welcome to MiWeek. We are glad that you're with us. I'm Christy McDonald. After all the campaigning, all of that money, all of the promises, election 2014 is over. Now, it's time for some action. Coming up on MiWeek, Governor Rick Snyder is here. He will share with us what is on his agenda for the next 4 years in Michigan. Plus, analysis of all of the other election results and a ruling in Detroit's bankruptcy on Friday. It is all coming up on MiWeek, so let's get started. Joining me now, along with our MiWeek contributors Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson, is Governor Rick Snyder. Governor, welcome back to MiWeek and congratulations.
Thank you. It's great to be with you. It's an exciting time.
All right. So I guess my first question for you is a little twofold. The first thing would be, what have you learned personally from this election? And then the second one would be, what have you learned from talking to people out on the campaign trail that you're now going to incorporate into your next 4 years? Yeah,
in terms of learning from the campaign itself, it's just a continuation of our system needs to be improved.
How so?
Democracy works fine, and the establishments, the offices do, but the negativity and the campaigns, and to be blunt, the lies that take place. It's terrible to see all the special interest money coming in, all the terrible things going on, and I tried to be a good role model and run a positive campaign, and I believe I did. Again, I had to stand up for the truth in some cases, but that's not the way it should be. I mean, if you really stop and think about it, we wouldn't put up with this in our work life or family life, but as citizens, we've let the standards drop that low. I'd love to see the standards get raised where people should be talking about why they should get elected in terms of them and talking about what they want to do, what are the problems, what are the issues, and why. And I would think from a media point of view, that would be the dream answer, is you actually get a substantive discussion, not sound bites about issues.
So Governor, speaking of campaign controversies, the biggest one this time was about this $1 billion. Was it cut from education? Was it added to education? Obviously, we all know now what the truth was that you actually increased education by shifting money over to MIPSers. But that did result in a foundation grant loss in the classroom. I think a lot of voters, or a lot of people have asked me, why didn't you do both? Why wasn't it not possible to fund MIPSers better and then either maintain or increase the per pupil allocation?
Well, we did do increases in most of those years in terms of per pupil, Stephen. I mean, we actually had a pretty good increase the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
If you look beyond it, though, it's a challenge to say how much revenue do you have. We've made a massive investment in education. Those are big numbers. And in fact, the way I viewed it is I was actually helping traditional public schools at the expense of charter schools.
Right.
If I would have done it the other way, a lot of those resources would have gotten diverted to charter schools. So in fact, I thought it was important. And this is something this is where you wish you had more time to go through with people, because if you go back to one of my earliest budget presentations, which quite often put people to sleep, where I would do those, is I have a favorite chart I still use each year, which shows the challenge with the retirement system that the school districts have to pay.
Right.
And literally, 2016 should be the last major increase year. And then we're in a position to really have significantly more resources.
But what do you say to teachers? And those are the people who are calling me and emailing me who are saying, look, there is less money in my classroom now than there was before. Are they
well, a big part of it is I'm investing in the teachers with a well-funded system, and they're in the classroom.
Sure.
And again, that was part of the ironic part with the ads is the teachers, one, if you looked at their districts, they actually had increases. A number of them did.
Right.
And then the other part is they're complaining about this, and it's because I made a major commitment not to give resources to charter schools and instead make sure they have a well-funded retirement. I'm just...
But again, it's the classroom
Yeah.
that people are focused on, and that's where, you know, parents are
Yeah.
not concerned, frankly.
Well, again,
about,
a lot of them have had increases, though. In declining enrollment districts, there's been challenges, and
Yeah.
we have some challenged districts, too, in terms of how they've been run.
Now, Governor, you say that your #1 priority in the lame duck session is getting a transportation package passed. Does your reelection give you more leverage to get the legislature to act on that? You're still asking them to raise taxes or raise fees.
Yeah, well, and that's would have been the answer to the second part of your question,
I know,
Christy,
which we kind of skipped over, but I knew that we were going to come back around to it.
No,
I know
thought
you
it was
didn't.
very good.
I know
Actually,
you didn't.
I think Nolan teed it up for you, because that would be the key thing I learned
Right.
on the campaign trail was the road question has not diminished in importance. And to be open, that was one of the concerns I had is during pothole season, I knew it was on everyone's mind. I had some degree of concern now that we've gone through the summer, would people sort of forget? They haven't forgotten, and they shouldn't forget, because they're not going to get better until we invest more dollars. And in terms of the situation, I think this election does hopefully send that message, because it shows you can do difficult things from a political point of view and actually have the voters recognize it was the right thing to do.
Well, raising the gas tax would be a very difficult thing, and yet gas is now under $3. Is this an opportune time to go to the legislature and say, let's put 15, 17, 20 cents on the gas tax at a time maybe when motorists won't notice it so much?
Well, again, it's the right thing to do anytime, and I think it does make it, hopefully it makes it somewhat easier. But again, we shouldn't raise more. We have a range of revenue to raise, so I wouldn't change that answer because it's lower prices. But in terms of being a more constructive, easier time for people to absorb it, that's true.
All right, so let's talk about a timing issue. Can people expect this to come out in lame duck, or do you think with working with a different batch of legislators come January that it's going to happen then?
Well, I think that we should have a good window to do it now. Again, if it doesn't get done in lame duck, I'm going to make it a top priority after. That's the relentless part of positive action. But I think there's a good window here in lame duck to get it done because we came very close. We were only a handful of votes short, and I think it's an issue with both Democrats and Republicans. I think it was a question of legislators looking at not just a general election, but the primary, I think, was a bigger question in some minds that made it too difficult to vote for it. So now that we don't have those constraints, we had all the framework in place largely. We're done. Why don't we, with the elections, why don't we just get this done?
Governor, you increased your support in Detroit by 2 percentage points between 2010 and 2014. That may not sound like a lot to people, but it's significant.
That'd be 40%.
Well, there you go. You're the accountant.
And it only costs $350 million.
Right. For a Republican,
Yeah.
that's significant in the city. You spent some time campaigning in the city, probably more than other Republican gubernatorial candidates that we've seen. What does that mean? I mean, what's the takeaway from all of that?
Well, I think it's hopefully a statement that I've made since 2009, that I believe the city of Detroit's important for the future of the entire state, and I'm committed to being invested in bringing back the city. And I appreciate some of the citizens of Detroit recognizing that. And it's not just Midtown and downtown, it's about the neighborhoods.
Right.
And that's where there's still a great deal of work to be done. And I'm excited about the future there. I'm excited to see Kevin Orr transition out and the mayor and city council come in and play the traditional role that they would in the community. And I'm happy to be that supportive partner.
And that process could begin on Friday when the judge rules on the bankruptcy plan. So as you exit from the bankruptcy and look ahead out over the next 4 years of your term and beyond, what's the ongoing relationship and responsibility of the state to Detroit?
As we would with any other community, is to be a supportive partner. And again, that's where I really appreciate and encourage innovation in communities. Because quite often, if you look at many things we've done, I like to pilot things, try new ideas, ask new questions, and I really look for communities to want to be proactive to do that. It's entrepreneurship and innovation in the public sector. So that's where I believe I've got a good relationship with the mayor, that hopefully he'll be proactive coming forward ideas. I'll be happy to present ideas, and if we can find those engagement points, and I'm sure we will, we'll do things. Community Ventures is a great illustration about helping the structurally unemployed in Detroit. We've been partnering with Focus Hope on that for some time. This whole career tech education thing, which is my top priority, there's a huge opportunity because career tech ed in Detroit schools or Detroit educational institutions, whether it's community colleges or schools, can be ramped up dramatically.
Let me ask you on a personal level, if we had asked you the day that you said that an emergency manager was going to be appointed for the city of Detroit, if you knew then that the city could possibly be exiting from bankruptcy this Friday, would you have envisioned this kind of timeline and this kind of speed?
Well, I couldn't speak to it when the EM was appointed, but when I actually authorized bankruptcy, that's the date, because again, that was a last resort. I hope to have avoided bankruptcy, but when we got to that point, we actually had a timeline to say it could be 18 months. I mean, that's why I asked from Kevin to give me a timeline to get it done. To be open with you, most people probably didn't think that was a credible timeline. I had confidence in Kevin, and I had confidence that we were going to work hard on doing it. So some of us actually believed it was doable, and we're off by a couple months. What I would say, though, is not because of us. What I had confidence in is I hope Michiganders would rally to come address this. And this is the great part of the whole bankruptcy situation, which people have made sacrifices, retirees, but people came to the table that you hadn't seen in the past, come to the table, the foundation community, that's unprecedented, the judges as mediators, the judge, the city, all the parties rallied together, the DIA donors, the retirees. I got to give them a huge shout out. They took cuts and they supported this. People rallied to say, let's get this done, and it worked. It's working.
And when
it's awesome. We should be proud.
It is. I mean, it's going to be a big event once we get this ruling. But let me look a little bit down the road to other cities who are in financial distress around the state, because I think municipal finance is going to be this next topic of conversation over the next couple of years in the state. What do you tell other cities that are in similar financial situations? Is bankruptcy a solution for them like it was for Detroit, or are you going to find other cities saying, hey, can we get the same kind of deal that Detroit did?
Let me put it this way. For any Michigan city, they shouldn't count on bankruptcy. That is a very last resort. And it was a unique circumstance with Detroit. As you look across the other cities, we've used the financial manager law and the great people we've had in that position successfully in a number of other communities, Pontiac, Benton Harbor, Allen Park. And then you say in places where we have them, such as Flint, we're showing progress. We have some legal issues we're still getting resolved that have been the constraint there. What I want to do, though, is not spend all the time on financial managers, emergency managers. Let's do more early warning systems. Let's work more with, a priority I'm going to have is working with all municipal governments, local government, and all school districts to say, let's work on financial transparency, accountability, and better information, so we can really identify what are our structural issues, what are the ways, where are our problems, and how do we solve them.
What about more innovative ways of funding municipal governments? What about reopening Prop A, for example, or the Headley Amendment?
Yeah, what I would say, Nolan, is I don't necessarily just jump to Headley and Prop A, because that creates a whole set of politics to it. It's like, let's first define the problem, see what the solutions could be, and then what are the relevant answers. I think a great illustration is the personal property tax proposal we passed. Personal property tax was a large revenue source for many communities. It was not a smart answer long-term because it actually cost them jobs. It retarded job creation in the very places that wanted that revenue. So it took us a couple years. That's why I was much more careful about the transition there than the Michigan business tax in terms of timing, because I wanted the local communities to buy into the solution. We got a great solution. We got the citizens to support it. So now they have a more reliable revenue stream that's more consistent and better for them. That's the kind of win by asking a new question.
If you look at the things you've done with the tax structure, there is a lot more burden being carried by individuals, whether it's senior citizens, whether it's low-income people who lost the earned income tax credit, whether it's this shift from the PPT to individuals in cities to sort of carry that burden. What would you say to people about why that's fair and why that makes sense?
Well, again, I think we can go back through the numbers, Stephen. In terms of the numbers shifting, I don't think it's in the order of magnitude. There was some shift, if you look at the numbers.
Right.
But we had huge crises, and we had to solve it, and I asked for sacrifice from everybody in some ways. What I would like to do over time is, as the economy comes back, how do we look at doing more tax relief? to our citizens. And that's why I proposed it in last year's budget. That's why I hope as part of a road package, if we're asking for additional revenue, how can we focus some tax relief on particularly lower and middle income people?
You will come back with a legislature that's perhaps more conservative than the one that's outgoing. How do you keep them on your agenda, focused on economic development and job creation and training and skills and education, and away from the issues that divide Michigan?
Yeah, well, there's larger majorities. I'm not sure how much more conservative or not, but there are larger majorities for the Republican Party. What I would say is we found great common ground issues over the last 4 years on economic issues in particular, in terms of finding ways to work together. So I want to continue that path, and again, that's why I want to be proactive in recommending an agenda. That's transportation funding we've talked about. Career tech education, I don't think anyone argues with that I can find to say this is a huge opportunity for us to improve our state. Education, I think everyone believes in education. Then it becomes a case of, how do you best do that? That's why I want to focus in on the third grade reading issue, dual enrollment, some of these other innovative ways to do that, and I think there's strong support there.
A large part of the campaign was focused on the economy here in Michigan and people, if they haven't felt the upturn in the economy or the slow recovery of the state. And people still, the unemployment numbers are high in the state of Michigan. What do you have in store for the next 4 years to tackle that?
Yeah, well, first of all, unemployment's higher than the national average, but we've made a huge comeback. I mean, I've said the jobs number a lot, but to put that in perspective, we're number 5 in the number of private sector jobs created in the United States in the last 4 years. We were projected to be at the bottom. In terms of growth rate, we're 13th fastest in terms of a percentage rate. That's top tier performance. So in terms of creating jobs, it's just we started farther in the hole than anybody else. But I want us to be improved. And this is the career tech ed jobs. That's where the big ones, these skilled trades jobs. If you go to mitalent.org, you'll see about 90,000 open jobs in Michigan. Many of these are good, well-paying jobs. So that's where we need to create this pipeline of apprenticeship programs. The Matt Squared program that I've created is working great, but it's in the dozens of people. We need to ramp those up to thousands of people and create these partnerships around the state. And these are all doable things that are more common sense than anything else, and actually getting people, parents and kids, to really look at career choices in a better way, that there is this second track of great well-paying jobs for the skilled trades.
A lot of my Democratic friends are pretty despondent about your first 4 years and the fact that you won
Particularly
the
this
second
morning,
4
right?
years, especially this morning. It's a pretty bitter loss. But I mean, they point to some specific things, right to work, tighter abortion restrictions, the loss of same-sex partner benefits. There's been a litany of things that seem to have changed the character of Michigan over the last 4 years. What would you say to those people about why they should be hopeful at all about you having another 4 years in the governor's office?
Yeah, well, right to work is good. I view that as actually standing up for Michiganders. I mean, we've been through this discussion before.
We have.
It was really an environment created by organized labor that made a divisive environment. So, again, that's done. And look at this last election. Did you see right to work being an issue?
It wasn't.
No,
It was not an issue. So that one, and then in terms of some of the other things you mentioned, abortion, again, I'm a pro-life person, but the changes were not dramatic in terms of, they were incremental and I think well-placed in terms of some of the safety issues, in terms of being there. So those are the kind of things that you can look at and say, there's a lot of good things to work on. Let's focus on the positives of our urban areas in terms of our cities bringing them back. Let's talk about unemployment and how we can help the structurally unemployed get work. Healthy Michigan, I think we've done a lot for people in need in this state. Healthy Michigan is a huge success.
It is.
But we don't get to talk about other things. I mean, foster care. The adoption rate is up 25 percentage points in the state of Michigan. That's awesome, but it's still not 100%.
But you mentioned...
So this has got to be the last question, Nolan. Go ahead.
You mentioned the Human Services Department, adoptions, what have you. Maura Corrigan's done a terrific job of turning that place around, but she's leaving. How much of your current administration do you anticipate will follow you into a second term, or do you anticipate doing wholesale replacements?
No, not wholesale at all. I mean, we've had a couple people announced, Jim Haveman, Maura Corrigan, they're awesome. But this was just a natural transition. If you look at many of our folks, when they first joined me, they were expecting to probably be there less than 4 years. To be open with you, this is the greatest team I've ever worked with, and folks are fired up to keep going. So there'll be some normal transition, but the good part is we build a strong team and bench to go with them. And they're not getting away. They all want to help on projects.
All right, so is it time for a little bit of rest now for you, at least?
A little bit of rest, yeah.
Just a little bit? Just
yeah.
You're going to take a couple
So I'm looking
days?
forward to the weekend.
All right. All right, Governor Snyder.
We got a big day on Friday.
That's right. That's right. All eyes will be on Detroit. Governor Snyder, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations again. And we look forward to following your agenda and seeing what happens here in Michigan in the next 4 years.
Great. Thank you.
Turning now to more results from election night, how turnout impacted the final numbers, as well as surprises, what both parties and voters learned from this election season, and what we can expect out of Lansing. All right, Nolan and Stephen, happy day after a couple days after elections. So have you kind of shook it all off? And I guess I'm going to ask you both for your large picture. What do we learn from all of this?
I've shook it off. Steve still looks a little puny over there.
I'm just tired.
It's been a long week, and then we've got the bankruptcy decision on Friday, so you've got to gear back up for that. All right. So, but what did we learn out of all this?
One of the things we learned is it's extraordinarily hard to motivate voters to the polls in an election like this when they're not all that crazy about the candidate. Democrats under Lon Johnson tried every trick in the book to get their base out, to get voters out, the 900,000 Democrats who didn't vote in 2010, and they didn't move the needle at all. There were fewer voters, this time 80-some thousand fewer voters, 12,000 fewer voters in Detroit where the president came in and try to whip everybody up and get them to the polls. You got to have a candidate. You can't just do it with formulas and models and iPhones and mail-out packets. You got to have a candidate to get people out.
You know, it's interesting. You would think, Stephen, because the race had been projected to be so close for governor with all of these polls, that would spur people to get engaged and knowing that it was right on the line. It wasn't like it was a blowout in these, last days.
It wasn't, and that's again, that gets back to your candidate. I think they put a lot on this strategy of targeting these voters who don't show up for midterm elections and saying that if we go to them directly and get them to vote absentee, it can make the difference. What they didn't do was shore up their base. The turnout for them on election day failed them. I think that this is a more systemic problem inside the Democratic Party. I think the way they've been choosing candidates is problematic. They haven't had a competitive primary for governor since 2002. Jennifer Granholm was the last person on that side who had to compete for that job. I think that matters. I think that matters in terms of campaigning. It matters in terms of defining your message.
So what does this mean for Lon Johnson?
I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't mean bad repercussions for him, because I think the idea of, let's put aside the strategy of trying to win.
Right.
The idea of expanding the base of voters is something we should all be about. There is no reason that people sit home in midterm elections. So he has the right idea, and it worked remarkably well for the people he reached out to. What they lost was their base, who were not excited about their candidate. He really got beaten pretty badly in a way that
he lost
was
by
surprising.
4 points against an incumbent governor. Howard Wolpe lost by 20 to John Engler.
Against a much more popular governor.
This should have been that same sort of beatdown, and the governor just squeaked by. I think Schauer ran a good campaign.
He ran a good campaign for somebody who had almost no name recognition when he got into the race and didn't have a message about who he was to sell to voters. And that, again, I think these are things that sometimes get cleaned up in that primary process.
You can't minimize here the fact that the governor he won, and winning's all that matters, but he ran a really poor campaign.
Well, he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. But what he does have to worry about now is working in January with new members in the Senate and in the House, and both Republican controlled. So you would think that maybe on the surface, this will be easy. They're all Republicans and they can all work together and push through their agenda. Do you see any difficulty there, Stephen?
Well, I think he has a different kind of agenda than the leadership in the House and the Senate are likely to have. This is easily the most conservative legislature I think I've seen in my lifetime in Michigan. You have people who were elected this time who believe that homosexuality should be a crime. Not just anti-gay marriage, but just anti-gay. You have leadership on both sides of the legislature who are very strident about social issues. This is not a governor who has said that he wants to deal with those things. He will have to wrestle with them.
They have to run
This
for
is going to have to be the last
re-election,
word, Nolan.
and
Go ahead.
He doesn't. So
And he doesn't. So
it's
he
going
should
to
have
be
an advantage.
extraordinarily hard to get tax increases and stuff like that through. Governor doesn't face the voters again. They do.
All right, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in lame duck in terms of what the governor was talking about in transportation and road funding. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it for us. Thanks so much for joining us for MiWeek. You can always find us at MiWeek.org and watch any shows that you might have missed on demand. We are also on Facebook and on Twitter at MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us, and our thanks to the governor for joining us as well. I'm Christy McDonald. We'll see you next week for MiWeek. Take care.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta,